welcome to this edition of NAAP News Now. My name's Elisa Tag, and we're back for another great day of knowledge and gaining information. And I'm so excited to welcome our guest today. We have Dan Hudak from Hudak on Hollywood. Hello, Dan. How are you?
Hi, doing great, Elisa. Hi.
Good, good. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dan. We had the pleasure of meeting you, I think, probably last year when you signed up to participate at our annual conference, and we loved having you there. And I know that you're going to be back with us again. We're even more excited about that. But we're super excited to learn more about Hudak on Hollywood, and we know you're on the road, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell us just a little bit more about who you are and your background?
My pleasure. I was a film critic for 20 years. I was a film professor for 15 years. And when I was a film professor, a retirement community in South Florida reached out and said, Dan, can you do a lecture for our members? And I said, sure, why not? So I went and it went well. And then they invited me back to do another one. And I said, sure, why not? And then when that one went well, I realized that I had two lectures that were ready to go, and there are hundreds of retirement communities in South Florida. So I reached out to the communities, to the clubs, to the JCCs, to the libraries, trying to get myself as well saturated as possible. And then over time, I realized that I have all of these contacts and I'm the only one benefiting from it. Part of the reason I do what I do is because I love sharing my passion and knowledge with others. I love our elders. I love my grandparents. I had a wonderful relationship with my grandparents and talking to them and learning from them and engaging with them. And so I thought it would be a good thing business-wise and a good thing for my soul to try to help other lecturers get booked at these communities as well. So the agency of Hudak on Hollywood was born. I have about 35 lecturers total spread across the country now who I help to get lecture bookings at retirement communities and clubs.
That's super cool how Hudak on Hollywood came about. And I think it's fun because a lot of people think, are you in Hollywood? No, we know that you're not in Hollywood exactly. But no film critic really is in Hollywood, right? They're all over the United States. And I love the fact of the service that you provide in the lectures. And so let's talk a little bit more about that. Share more about what lectures you're doing and the lifelong learning that you provide.
Gladly. So I lecture on classic films, being a film critic and film professor. Naturally, it's my field. I have about 25 different lectures that I do. Tonight, in just a few minutes after we're done here, I'm heading off to a community to do a lecture called Home for the Holidays. It's all about holiday movies, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, and Christmas. Spoiler alert, there are not many Hanukkah movies, but there are some. It's certainly worth mentioning. And it's really nice to get in the spirit of the season. So I try to take a thematic approach whenever I can. I also do a lecture on the Oscars every year. I have a couple lectures on the history of the Oscars. And then once Oscar nominations are announced in January, in February, and March, in the 6 weeks leading up to the Oscars, I do what I call the Best Picture Oscar Talk, in which I go behind the scenes of all the major categories, Best Actress, Best Actor, Director, etc. And I show clips from all 10 of the Best Picture nominated films. I discuss what it's going to win, why, its likelihood to win Best Picture, Academy bureaucracy, and how the campaigning plays a role and all of that. So those are two of my most popular ones. But usually the one I start with at communities is called Famous Moments, Famous Movies. And that's really the Hudak on Hollywood lectures that I do in a nutshell. I show clips from classic films, and then I take the audience behind the scenes to give a sense of the story of its production, trivia, fun facts, other nuggets from the movie itself. Usually, the clips that I'm showing, especially in that presentation, is going to be a memory trigger, are going to be a memory trigger for the attendees who are watching it. These are from the golden age of cinema, a time when many residents at senior communities grew up and they have fond memories of these films. So I'm providing a memory trigger, and I'm also telling them something new in the process. So that's the kind of overarching goal of my film lectures that I love doing. I have a passion for it, and I absolutely love doing them.
I think that's super cool. And I'm just curious, because you say you do the series on the Oscars. Wait, do you usually predict the winner, and have you been normally correct?
So yes, I do make a prediction. I make a prediction every year. I was wrong for about 8 years in a row. At least it felt like 8 years in a row. And I think part of it was I kind of overthinking it. I have all this knowledge and all these pundits that I'm reading and all these trends, and then it's announced and it's like, of
Oh,
course it was that movie. But I can say the last 3 years in a row, I've dumbed it down for myself and simplified, and I've been right the last few years. So hopefully that trend can continue in 2024.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So share more, how can we learn more about it? I know you want to share a little bit more with us about Hudak on Hollywood. And I know you're not the only lecturer in your group. And so share a little bit more about that if you don't mind at this time.
Gladly. I'm going to share my screen for you. And the screen that I'm sharing here is my Zoom lecturers screen. I know we're talking to communities all over the country. I want to first point out that Hudak on Hollywood has a presence in in these communities here. So South Florida, which is where I am now, Naples, Fort Myers, Tampa, Central Florida, Albuquerque. Already in Albuquerque quarterly. Denver is where I live. So if you're in Denver in that area, I am most available to you there. I've been to Grand Junction, Phoenix, Minneapolis. I'm trying to head to soon. And then, of course, New York, New Jersey. I go quarterly, Cleveland, and Zoom. I have most of my lecturers who go in person in those markets I just shared. Many of them are also available via Zoom. So
Mm.
on the Zoom page, which is of course, anyone can do Zoom from anywhere. I have everyone listed. So you can see me here, my colleagues Hap and Sharon and all my colleagues. I'm not going to go through all 30 people, but I can highlight this section here on the Zoom page, which covers the different subject areas that we offer people in. Jewish history and topics has been immensely popular now. Everything that's happening in Israel has become a very popular topic. A number of communities have reached out asking for someone to come in and give some perspective and hopefully foretell the future of all that's happening in Israel now. American history is always a fascinating topic. I have a guy here in South Florida who does disputed presidential elections. He is
Mm.
available via Zoom as well. That hopefully won't be a thing this November, but who knows what's going to happen. We cover a number of the arts. So I do film. I have colleagues who do film history. We cover Broadway. We cover music, pop music of the 1960s through to the present. We cover classical music. We cover opera. We cover ballet. We have art history, classic radio, classic TV, geology, deep sea diving, for crying out loud. Who knew? But there are lectures out there for it. And I also have a biological oncologist. He is not an oncologist, but he studies biology and how that affects cancer. So if people are looking for something more informative and current, sorry, hotel phones, something more informative and current, there's the biological oncologist. His name is Chris Hickey. And I also work with a guy named Dr. Edward Cragen. He is affectionately known as Dr. Ed. And Dr. Ed has a number of talks along the lines of how to talk to your doctor, how to communicate clearly to your doctor, and making sure your doctor is getting all of the relevant information that he or she needs. So I'm trying to have as broad an offering as possible,
Mhm.
especially on Zoom, because Zoom can be done for anywhere. And then I can also share that in the locations that I have a presence, I am happy to search for more people. So if there's anyone out there in, say, Phoenix who wants something on American history, tell me, please reach out and tell me, and I am happy to find someone on American history in Phoenix to send to you. So I take requests. If you
Awesome.
there's no fee to me to find someone. All my fees factor in once the lecture is done and the payment is rendered. So there's no fee to me at all to do that. And I can also share, you could reach me at least I presume you'll provide my
Yes.
email address, but dan@hudakonhollywood.com is how everyone can reach me.
Awesome. Yes, I did put the website into the chat box with everybody that's viewing today. And I think it's super exciting, all the different topics that are available. And not only do you come personally to the states that you, or in the locations that you shared there, but you also have the Zoom lectures. And this is really great for educational learning for our residents and our in our communities that are wanting to have more of an educational opportunity to learn more about Hollywood, or to learn more about the different topics that you just expressed. I love the different topics you were talking about. Super exciting to see all, with not only just with the theater, with the movie industry, but also, getting into cultural history, as well as health and well-being, and looking at the opportunity to really focus on the education aspect. I think that is the best part of the whole thing with Hudak on Hollywood. And so if anybody wants to learn more from Dan, you can certainly email him at dan@hudakonhollywood.com to gain a better knowledge and understanding of everything that he provides. And I think that is super cool. So you said how many people do you have on staff, you said?
I have about 35 who are available via Zoom, between 40 and 45 total lecturers spread throughout the United States. And I want to echo what you just said, and I'll stop the screen share for a moment because I know you provided that information. I want to echo what you just said, because I've had a handful of communities reach out to me recently wanting to do a university type course. It's not an actual university course, of course, but it's once a month for 3 months. Let's have this speaker cover these 3 topics. I'm of course happy to do a group rate or something like that. And that's becoming more common. One thing that I've known from the very beginning of doing this is how intellectually thirsty the residents are at senior communities, and how often that's lacking in programming, not at the fault of any activities director, it's just because the program is not necessarily always available. And I'm here to tell you that I'm here to provide that, and I'm happy to do it. So please reach out, and I'm happy to find someone on a subject matter that is of interest if I don't already have it available to you. And if we could all get together on a Zoom, it could be really cheap. And I mean, extraordinarily cheap. If I have multiple communities on a Zoom, I can really drive down the price to make it work for everyone. So hopefully that can happen in the future as well.
I love that, and I love the fact that it's all about engagement and enrichment and education, rather than just being entertained all the time. And I
Yeah.
think that is the key with what you're doing, is to provide going above that step of being entertained, so to speak, and moving on into the next level. Then I like that, going into the next level, and super exciting. So if you want to learn more, you can certainly email Dan at Dan@Hudak on Hollywood. And Dan, I like to always end our conversations with final words of wisdom. So do you have any thoughts for us at this time?
Uh, Absolutely. And it's a message that I tell in person to the activities directors whenever I see them, when I speak to them on the phone. It's I understand. I know you have a lot going on. I know you're busy. I am here to make your life easier, to make your life as easy as possible. Let me provide the content for you. Let me tell you what the basic setup is. And for at least an hour out of a week, I can send someone to you or have something done via Zoom that you don't have to worry about. You can spend that hour with a Hudak on Hollywood lecture worrying about and handling something else, because I am positive that there is something else that's on your mind that you need to address. So if you could talk to many of the activities directors I work with, I'm very easy to work with, because I try to be patient, I try to be persistent as needed, and I understand the stress that you are in. I get you, and I'm trying to make your life easier. So please allow me to do so.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks so much for your time today, Dan. We do appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your schedule to be with us, to share a little bit more about Hudak on Hollywood. And again, you can learn at hudakonhollywood.com, as well as Dan at hudakonhollywood.com. So you have the ability to reach out to Dan either through his website or through him personally, and he is here to help. And we appreciate that. And we want to say thank you to all of all of our great Facebook Lives that we've had over this last year. NAAP News Now, we've had a great time, and this will actually be our final NAAP News Now for the year. So we're super excited to get into the holidays. So Dan, you were our final contestant, so to speak. And so thank you so much for your time today, and we will be back in the new year. And we hope everybody will stay safe and sane and enjoy the holidays. All right, take care. Bye.